here we are. We're in the sauna. I've got my guest, JM Lynch, next to me here. Super excited to chat about your amazing story and how you use something that caused so much pain and now it brings you joy to others in the form of delicious pizza. So, JM, please tell us, what brings you into pain?
Wow, that's definitely pain for me started as food, but now, like you said, I turned it into joy. I've known this pain since I was a child. It started in probably middle school, having a lot of access to nutritional foods and, eating a lot of processed foods, including wheat. And my whole family is kind of predisposed to celiac disease. So that was a thing that we had to deal with. And growing up in the early 90s, my mom was very, very celiac, had horrible reactions, and there wasn't a lot of great food options for her that there are today. So being that we were somewhat economically challenged, there became a point where she just couldn't eat gluten-free and, went back to a wheat diet, and, that caused a lot of autoimmune diseases for her, watching her go through a lot of pain through this. And it didn't really start connecting to me until middle school, when I started to eat a lot of sugar and really increase the processed foods. And then you go through puberty and, acne starts, but I felt like my acne was way worse than hereditary kind of thing. Coming to find that some of my skin reactions could have been due to the diet I was eating. So I went to some holistic doctors, did some testing on various things, and turns out I was sensitive to everything because my body and my digestive system was just so poor that I had to make some changes. And one of the things that was kind of determined was I could possibly have a Candida albicans infection, which is due to, everyone has beneficial gut bacteria that help you digest and, absorb nutrients, and my whole digestive system was just out of whack. So I had to realign it. So, through a couple months process, I basically had to eliminate all sugar, all vinegar, processed foods, and was eating whole grain. And that's how I started to get into cooking through, this very mundane, monotonous diet. I just started to try and use different spices and different cooking techniques to actually have flavor in this incredibly boring food that I was eating. And, it got really kind of hooked on it. And, my parents kind of encouraged me to maybe look at it as a career standpoint. It never occurred to me until they actually said that this could be an acceptable career path for me. So in high school, started going to vocational school, working my way in restaurants, and that's when I started to take it seriously. I went to Culinary Institute of America, and fast forward 25 years later, I'm making pizza with high quality wheat.
I think that's so cool because, when I think of someone that's celiac, the bread's not even in the category, yet you found a way to make pizza. This is pretty much the defining characteristic of pizza is bread, in a sense. So how did that even come about for you, where you were able to be brave enough to go all in on the bread aspect of food when it's it can be a painful thing for people with celiac and people that have bad food allergies.
Right. So this is a huge, very, very layered conversation, I feel like, and topic. But, celiac is someone who cannot digest gluten, right? In their lower intestine, you have cilia, hence celiac, and your body is actually, since you can't digest the gluten, your body is attacking it, right? And it's causing damage to the cilia. So that is a celiac. And then there's debate whether there's celiac and gluten intolerance. Gluten intolerance, can't digest it to some extent, right? It doesn't quite, it's like a sensitivity compared to like, a disease. Mm-hmm. And so I've been diagnosed with the sensitivity. I've never taken the endoscope test where they literally use a camera to see how much damage is going into your intestines. And that's purely from a financial standpoint. I was about to do it, lost my insurance. So the doctor, and at the time I had gotten the blood test, and it was confirmed that I am gluten intolerant. They didn't know to what extent, and I was avoiding gluten heavily at the time. And the doctor was like, "Well, it looks like you're moderately sensitive, and the only way that we're gonna really know if you eat gluten for a while and then go take the camera test to see how much damage is doing it." And so I was started to do that a couple weeks in, and I was just like, man, I this is terrible. I feel awful. I felt so weak, stressed out. You could see it in my face, just like that. So I stopped. At that time, I was working in a pizza place. I knew I wanted to pursue the pizza end of my career, or the pizza segment of my career. I had spent 20 years in upper fine dining and in country clubs and all of that, and I wanted to bring this kind of like upper echelon of dining experience into something that's so approachable to everyone, pizza, right? So coming full circle back, I discovered, freshly milled flour and high quality flour that's organically grown in Minnesota, milled in Northeast Minnesota, and then, really started to research more about, celiac versus gluten intolerance and what does that mean. And the topic of glyphosate, is heavily debated, whether that's actually contributing to our gluten intolerance as a society. If you look at other countries that don't use it or ban it, they have a lot less gluten intolerance. Canada and US are the two countries that use it the most. Since the 1990s, something like over 100% of glyphosate, the percentage of glyphosate that can be found in humans is increased by 100% since the 1990s. It's literally in
ridiculous.
It's literally in 30% of our food. It's everywhere. So I feel that by avoiding glyphosate, I feel better. Now I eat my own pizza. Don't have reaction. We also use a sourdough starter, which helps to break down the gluten as well in your body. So that's kind of why I pursued pizza with this flour, is knowing that, God, it's such a almost like an epidemic now with the gluten intolerance and just how terrible it is. Not only the glyphosate in the flour, but just how heavily processed it is, right? It's stripped of all nutrients and then, fortified with unnatural, vitamins and minerals to replace everything that's been stripped out of it. It's bleached and it sits on a shelf for God knows how long, right? So
yeah.
The whole approach.
We're supposed to eat that, right?
Right. You're supposed to eat that. There's no nutritional value.
Ridiculous.
And there's no flavor. So that's kind of another reason why I went with what we're doing and the vision we have for the company is keeping in mind, not only the flavor, but the nutritional aspects of the product we're putting out there.
That's amazing. And yeah, it really does seem like, every other person has a gluten sensitivity or can't tolerate it. We see it here at the brewery very often where there's somebody that's been a regular for, quite some time. And then all of a sudden, hey, they're not drinking anymore. And it's because they aren't feeling good. There's something that's attacking them on the inside. And then beer is a really easy thing to eliminate, right? Because it's alcohol. It's not necessarily good for you, and it's easier to just suffer with making a sandwich or something like that, or to try to just get the right things in your body. In a sense, it's just really interesting to see what people are doing to try to better themselves, or from the ignorant side of it, what they're not doing to better themselves. Because I grew up. How old are you?
41.
I'm 40. I'm about to turn 41 next month, so nice. 1984. It's a good year to be born.
Yeah.
I felt like my whole childhood was setting me up for dietary failure, in a sense, because everything was processed, and I loved having desserts, little treats, packaged treats, and it got to the point where I wasn't performing as well as an athlete, but I didn't recognize that until way after the fact. And I'm just so grateful that nowadays there is the research that's out there to to showcase what is good to eat and what's not good to eat, because it set me up for a really rough road where all of a sudden I'm binge eating sugar like it's going out of style, like it's the only source of happiness for me. And still to this day, I love to have sugar, but I can think about it a little bit differently, and I know that it's not going to make me feel good. And I'm so in tune with my body now that from the onset of it going into my belly, I already feel different, and not in a good way.
Totally relate. I mean, it seems like the food that's out there today is meant to be addicting, right? Sugar is in itself is an addicting, and then when you add all these other preservatives and additives to it, it's not even food anymore, really, right?
Right. Yeah. No, that is crazy. When you were, in middle school, when this started to really come on, what type of pains were you feeling? Was it just the lethargy of not, having bad things in you, or was it stomach cramps, or what were you feeling?
A lot of rashes, dermatitis on parts of my body, incredible fatigue, just feeling tired all the time, and then using food as a way to uplift me, right? Go to the cupboard and grab a cookie or a snack, and you feel good for 20, 30 minutes, and then, then you have that crash, and all right, let's go find that again. And yeah, just very bad skin problems was the main issue, but there was definitely underlining other symptoms.
Wow, I can relate to the skin issue as well. I never like broke out fully, but I would just randomly have, a couple big zits, pimples here and there. That was just like, I don't know, where are those coming from? And then when my first year playing junior hockey up in Canada, my diet totally changed. I'm in a completely different place, and I don't know what officially triggered it, but all of a sudden I was broken out completely on my whole entire face. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I had nothing to fix that. I didn't know if it was what I was eating. I didn't know if it was stress. But when I went and played for another team later that year, it got under control. So it was very odd. I don't know what it was, and I can't pinpoint it, but it just is pretty obvious that I was putting something into my body, whether it was bad food or stress, in a sense that maybe just break out, and then all of a sudden you're dealing with the mental aspect of feeling shitty, and that hurts too,
Right. I mean, food is the basis of everything that goes on in our body, right? Our body tells us when things are not going right through the food we're eating.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can put in your body and how it can harm you or how it can make you feel good. What's also amazing is when you put log into this fire and just get it stoking hot in here. So we're about at that stage where we need to put some wood on this fire and get this party started.